Hey, everybody. Alan Jacoby here, co host of the Steak for Breakfast podcast, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where we bring you real commentary on real news with real guests, deep diving into political issues, policies, and the Trump agenda and presidency and beyond. So, today I wanted to do a video on, a member of Congress who has pathetically cosplayed as a conservative Republican for the last 14 years, who, in fact, has been exposed as a complete and utter fraud. Typical loser libertarian, again, that cosplays horribly as a Republican, and that is, Thomas Massie. This guy has managed to fool too many people. And it's about time that people know the truth about this guy. He is not America first. He is Thomas Massie first. He is money first. He plays this role as anti-Israel. Again, I don't care. Anti-foreign aid, which he votes behind closed doors to allow for that to happen, like raising the debt ceiling under Joe Biden, allowing for unlimited borrowing. But Thomas Massie, here he is in his glory, because see, this is what he is. This is the true Thomas Massie. He's like a Muslim Karen. He likes to say he doesn't take money from Israeli lobbyists and donors and Jewish donors, but he does like to take them from Muslim pro-terrorism, anti-ICE donors and PACs. Matter of fact, he takes donations from the same donors as Ilhan Omar, as Ro Khanna, his BFF over on the Democrat side. Here's just some of the same donations made. Thomas Massie has taken money. They all have the same last name. Marouk, I don't know if I'm saying it right, nor do I care, with a bunch of different first names. A lot for $7,000, $5,000, $3,500, $2,000. Some pretty sizable donations, maybe maxing it out for individuals, adding up to a lot of money. These same people were donating to Cori Bush. Well, she's not in Congress anymore, thank God. Marjorie Taylor Greene shares the same donors. Ro Khanna, again. Ilhan Omar. Bowman, he's not there anymore. A lot of them. A lot of anti-Jewish PACs, like the Citizens Against AIPAC Corruption, which, again, I don't care. The fact of the matter is, this man, Thomas Massie, speaks out of both sides of his mouth. And today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. And tomorrow, President Trump is doing a rally right in Thomas Massie's district, Kentucky's 4th congressional district. And Thomas Massie is panicking. He's panicking because he's politically desperate. His fundraising isn't going so well amongst Republicans. He is getting a lot of Democrat donations. As a matter of fact, that other platform that supposed to rival X, that the liberals started, Blue Sky, there's like an entire cheering section on Blue Sky for Thomas Massie. There's Democrats on X, on Instagram, that are going to bat for Thomas Massie. There's tremendous bot farms also being operated. The Groypers, the Groyptards, they have signed on to Massie 100%. And Massie's fooling everybody. He just wants to stay in office. He's been in office since 2012 and has done absolutely nothing. If anybody can tell me actual legislation that Thomas Massie has brought to the table in 14 years, please tell me in the comments. And don't say, well, he's the one that fought for the Epstein files, because guess what? No, he didn't. As a matter of fact, Thomas Massie has never posted publicly on any of his social media platforms about the Epstein files before President Trump was president, except once. And it wasn't an organic post. It was a reply to another post on February 10th, 2024. So once he posted about the Epstein files and just said, I demand the release of the Epstein client list. That's all he said. That was the only post. And it wasn't an organic post that he replied to someone else. He never publicly, organically posted about the Epstein files being released before President Trump took office in 2025. Do you know why? Because Thomas Massie never wanted Donald Trump to be president. Him and Chip Roy, who I like to call Chip Soy, went and stumped for DeSantis. And all of the DeSantards out there all rally around Thomas Massie. He's the only fiscal conservative. Why? Because he votes no on everything, but on the other end of it never has a solution on how to fix things. Just likes to tell the camera, no, I didn't vote for it. I was the holdout. He serves no purpose. He's voted against Trump, I think, about 32 times. You know what's really sad is scumbag Lindsey Graham, Lady G, as broken as he is, as corrupt as he might be, is better. A broken Lindsey Graham is better than a Thomas Massie. At least Lindsey Graham votes for Trump's agenda. I mean, he's got his own problems. So tomorrow, on Wednesday, March 11th, 2026, President Trump is going to go to Kentucky's 4th District and hold a rally because Thomas Massie's primary challenger, Ed Gallrain, I think I'm saying that right. He's a former Navy SEAL captain. He was awarded 4 Bronze Stars, combat parachute badge. He's a 5th-generation Kentucky farmer. Massie's an engineer, by the way. President Trump endorsed Ed Gallrain to run against Thomas Massie in Kentucky's 4th District. And it seems that he's doing well with support. It seems like he's doing well with fundraising. Some people are accusing him of certain things. Listen, Thomas Massie, if God forbid the Democrats take the House in 2026, Thomas Massie will be a yes vote for an impeachment of President Trump. It's 100% fact. Thomas Massie's pissed off that Ron DeSantis is not president. Thomas Massie is pissed off that he was stepped over for what he thought he deserved was the Secretary of Agriculture position. He lobbied Thomas Massie to the transition team and anyone else who would listen in an attempt to get President Trump to pick him as the nominee for Secretary of Agriculture. And he might have had a shot, but he blew it. And that really scorned Thomas Massie. So now he is acting as if he cares about the Epstein victims and the Epstein files, when in reality, he never cared about the Epstein victims. He never cared about the Epstein files. He paraded what he labeled as Epstein victims into a congressional hearing on the steps of the Capitol with that other moron, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, guess what? They weren't victims. They all met Jeffrey Epstein after they were 18 years of age, some even after they were 21 years of age. Now they're all in their 50s looking for their 15 minutes of fame. They were all Epstein's co-conspirators. They were all of Epstein's and Ghislaine Maxwell's recruiters for young girls. That's what these women are. They're not victims. Thomas Massie's exploiting them, knowing full well they can't be prosecuted because of the case that Epstein had the sweetheart deal in, that all of his co-conspirators couldn't be prosecuted. They're talking about they have their own list of names, which they never released, which they never read out. They supposedly gave to Thomas Massie. He said he was going to read them on the House floor because he enjoys congressional immunity. He can say anything on the House floor and not be held liable for anything. Marjorie Taylor Greene said she was going to do it before she quit and abandoned her district in Georgia. So all of these people coming after Trump because they didn't get their way and didn't get what they wanted because they were all self-serving scumbags. So now he's got this Epstein narrative that he's playing, which that's all it is. Why didn't Thomas Massie bring this fight 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago? Why now? Because he hates President Trump and he thinks this is going to win him political points as this hero and savior and advocate for Epstein victims. And he's not. Instead, he's exploiting the real victims who are not coming forward. 0 Epstein victims are coming forward to work with the DOJ to corroborate any of this information in the Epstein files and turn that into evidence given to a grand jury to hopefully get an indictment and arrest, charges, a trial, conviction, sentencing, buried under the jail. But they're not, because most of them took settlements from the Epstein estate. Most of them moved on, got careers, got married, and they don't want to be bothered and have that trauma come back into the public eye and them forced to relive it. But Thomas Massie, he doesn't care. He's going to send out campaign emails and tell people that he's trying to work for the Epstein victims, but to donate here. All he's doing, because he's such a politically desperate, subhuman piece of excrement, Thomas Massie, is he is campaigning and fundraising off of the backs of the real Epstein victims and survivors. And there are hundreds of them still around. None of them are coming forward. There aren't going to be any arrests unless they have victims working to corroborate evidence, working to identify their traffickers, their abusers, whatever it might be. There will never be an arrest. President Trump isn't fighting to hide the Epstein files. President Trump did not want innocent people's lives to be ruined in the court of public opinion when they're not criminally implicated in anything. There are a lot of nasty people in the Epstein files, but it doesn't take someone with a very high IQ to realize that there are people mentioned in the files that aren't criminally implicated. There are people mentioned in the files because Jeffrey Epstein's plane was a part of a pool of private jets that they all would see what jet is available so they can travel. There are a lot of them that were doing really bad things. And that's why the DOJ had to redact names and email addresses and witness information and victim information, because they can't just release a name that they have no evidence of being criminally implicated in doing anything with underage girls or trafficking humans into the public without then having to deal with the possible liability. So people need to think about the whole Epstein thing a little differently. Maybe I'll do a video on that. But my point here is that Thomas Massie is all about Thomas Massie. Okay? Thomas Massie doesn't care about how much money's going to Ukraine, how much money's going to Israel, how much money's going here, how much money's going there, how much money's going everywhere. He doesn't care. Because again, behind closed doors, when Joe Biden was president and Donald Trump was running for president for the third time, he's over there voting to extend the debt ceiling, which gave unlimited borrowing power to Joe Biden, which they used to send billions of dollars to Ukraine, billions of dollars to Israel. He doesn't care. He cons his supporters. This is what Thomas Massie is. Oh, and by the way, full disclosure, I have not been compensated in any way to make this video by anybody. I have been calling out Thomas Massie as a grifting piece of shit under Joe Biden in President Trump's first term. This is who Thomas Massie is. He is a piece of garbage that will politicize horrible things that have happened to women for money, for his campaign, and for clout in the public eye in the hopes that people will look at him and say, he's really trying to help these people. He's really trying to expose these pedophiles. Is he? He's not. He's not. He doesn't care. I mean, he didn't even care about his wife that suddenly died. All of a sudden, he got married really quick. Maybe they should investigate his wife's death a little further. I don't know. Just asking questions here. But I think the sudden wife of Thomas Massie's wife, the sudden death, should be investigated further. That's just my opinion. But there's no doubt that Thomas Massie is politically desperate and will do and say anything to win his election. He's not running on any type of policy that he brought to the floor that got passed into law. I mean, there are people outside of Congress who are not members of Congress, who were not elected to represent constituents and legislate, that have actually successfully gotten legislation passed into law than Thomas Massie. Melania Trump has gotten more legislation passed into law than Thomas Massie. Advocates for January 6ers, advocates for gun owners have gotten nobodies. I mean, literal nobodies who have gotten more legislation passed into law than Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie has done nothing in his 14 years in Congress. Nothing. Absolutely zero. The only thing he's done is attended events, attended fundraisers, private dinners with anti-ICE, anti-immigration enforcement PACs, people that are publicly and aggressively fighting against deportation operations, immigration enforcement. I mean, he voted against President Trump's wall. He voted on bills that had ICE funding in them. What's really crazy is that you have this Democrat senator, John Fetterman, who is just blowing everybody's mind, that is more useful than Thomas Massie in government. This is not an Israel thing. This is a Thomas Massie's a piece of shit thing. And that behind closed doors, he is advocating for America to lose this campaign in Iran. I mean, it's pretty wild how this guy operates. And again, I'll say it again. He never cared. He never, ever cared about Epstein, the Epstein files, the Epstein victims. It's just now that he uses it daily, the Epstein narrative to fundraise off of the backs of the real victims And while at the same time, bringing Epstein's co-conspirators and recruiters to hearings saying that they're the victims. It's despicable. And that's Thomas Massie in a nutshell. And there's so much more. There's so much more to Thomas Massie. And you could look it up yourself. And you can get in the comments and tell me all of the great things that you think Thomas Massie stands for. As you're typing that, I want you to deep down soul search and realize that he conned you, that he's done nothing but vote against President Trump's agenda, which you probably voted for. I believe it's 32 times at least he's voted against anything Donald Trump wanted to put forward. So remember that. Thomas Massie said he had a list of the Epstein clients. Thomas Massie swore he'd read that list publicly under the protection of his congressional immunity. Well, Thomas Massie lied, because then Thomas Massie said he didn't have the names, or he wasn't given the names by the survivors, which, by the way, the survivors he's talking about are the of age at the time of meeting Epstein, co-conspirators, and recruiters. Thomas Massie never dealt with real Epstein victims. And if he did, you can count them on one hand. All of those women showing up now that you've seen on TV, they're all co-conspirators and they're all recruiters. Literally, they've all been exposed as meeting Jeffrey Epstein after they were 18. Granted, they don't deserve any abuse that they received. But the fact of the matter is, they were consenting adults. And then they were turned into recruiters and co-conspirators, paid a lot of money. So I guess the question is, why is Thomas Massie protecting them? They would be considered pedophiles too. Thomas Massie brought pedophiles to hearings. Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene brought pedophiles to stand behind a podium. Sorry, but if they're over the age of 18 and they're recruiting underage girls at the behest of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, that makes them pedophiles, not victims. Thomas Massie is advocating for them. So why is Thomas Massie protecting pedophiles? That's the question of the day. Anyway, that's it from me for today. Again, check out our show, Steak for Breakfast Podcast, over on Apple and Spotify and every platform you download your podcasts from. Check us out, me and my co-host, Roan. We release 4 episodes a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. 2 episodes drop each day. And again, we give you real commentary on real news as it's happening with real guests. Members of Congress, members of the Trump administration, members of the Trump family, other political icons like Roger Stone, and so many more. Check us out. You'll love it. Like this video, comment down below, love me, hate me, I don't care, bring it on. Hit the subscribe, and I'll see you all again soon.